10 years ago, Ju Hyuk's master drilled into him the skills he had honed for 40 years. He didn't really have dreams of conquering the world, but his master forced him to train hellishly for years. He even taught him skills like Destructive Fist and Mercury Fist. At first, Ju Hyuk considered these skills trash since they are territory war-only type of skills, but his master ended up punishing him for it. Ju Hyuk insisted that skills that cannot be used against monsters are trash. But now his thinking has changed. Thanks to the rewards he got from Jirigaktu, Ju Hyuk was able to temporarily increase his level, allowing him access to these skills once more. He can finally use these skills to the fullest as he punches at Derang's walls. The effect of True Evil Shattering Sky technique also activates and his attack further evolves into Super Destructive Fist. The people inside Derang confusingly stares at the black mist now spreading everywhere. However, Mayil wasn't distracted and leaps into the air. He then fires another attack at Ju Hyuk. This time his arrow splits into multiple pieces, each charging straight towards Ju Hyuk. Ju Hyuk calmly raises his hand and activates his skill, Annihilation. Black bolts of energy meets the fiery arrows, completely halting Mayil's attack. Rufin was shocked that even Mayil's ultimate long-range skill was so easily defeated. When Mayil lands back on the wall, he quickly orders Tumia, the director of Derang, to suppress the media. They cannot let their current situation be leaked. Tumia then warns everyone that filming is now prohibited in the city. On the inside, Tumia is crying because he couldn't believe that everything is happening right during his term. Meanwhile, Ju Hyuk's Annihilation's attack is still ongoing, but beside him was a small camera flying in the air. The camera is being controlled by Kyongsuk. They had already noticed that public and major broadcasters have stopped airing Derang, so it's clear that the Nova Guild, or sometimes known as Holy Guild, must have pressured the media. But Kyongsuk isn't afraid of them. He continues showing how Ju Hyuk's attack are striking Derang's wall, all for everyone in the world to see. Mayil notices that the wall they're standing on is showing growing cracks, and he warns everyone to back off. At that moment, the wall finally collapses and explodes in a brilliant purple light. Ju Hyuk then casually strolls through the broken wall to accomplish his mission. To steal ownership of a territory, he needs to break 3 territory crystals found inside the territory. Guards from another wall finally spots Ju Hyuk, and they rush down to meet him. They have to block him at all costs and prevent him from breaching any further. The 3 great swords of Nova, Rufin, Kurtel, and Assassin are wondering where their commander, Mayil, has gone. They also wonder how exactly they would be able to stop the monstrous Ju Hyuk, who is smiling creepily despite being rushed by tens of men. Meanwhile, the Ellen Guild had also started moving. They are being led by Muwan, and is now besieging the castle. Muwan didn't expect that the ultimate evil's power would be enough to attack Derang, and he realizes that common sense shouldn't be applied to Ju Hyuk. But he couldn't just let Ju Hyuk attack Derang. They have to do something, so they opt to continue their attack on Sernia. Their army finally manages to break through the castle's gate, and everyone rushes inside to find the territory crystals. Muwan knows that Ju Hyuk's territory is only Sernia. If they take this place first before Ju Hyuk can capture Derang, then they will win. However, Muwan senses something is off after a few seconds. He realizes that the inside of Sernia seems to be too quiet. In fact, breaking in was too easy, and there wasn't even any resistance when they breached the gate. Right now, the territory's crystal is also bare with no one guarding them. The soldiers approach the crystal ready to break it, but they are also getting weirded out with the lack of even an NPC guard. Meanwhile, miles away from the city, Sertion is looking at Sernia atop a mountain cliff. A subordinate appears and reports that they have successfully moved all troops and residents away from Sernia. They also left no traces from the warp portal. Sertion smiles since he knows that the enemy must now be confused inside Sernia. They would have never expected that they would just evacuate their whole populace to their other capital, Nan. Meanwhile, Muwan is trying to find out how Ju Hyuk could have moved all the NPCs and troops in Sernia. He soon came to the conclusion that Ju Hyuk must have another territory hidden somewhere. He felt like Ju Hyuk had just dealt a massive blow to them. Back at Derang, Ju Hyuk is surrounded by Nova soldiers, but he wasn't afraid. He just activates another skill. Ju Hyuk uses his skill, Destructive Nature. Normally, this skill is very risky due to its high mana requirement, but thanks to the effect of the True Evil Shattering Sky technique, his MP consumption had temporarily decreased. Upon activation of the skill, the purple mist surrounding Derang gathers into him. Mael thought that Ju-hyuk's earlier attack must just be disappearing, but they soon notice the mist gathering into a large sphere around Ju-hyuk. Mael guesses that Ju-hyuk must have no intention of looking for the territory crystal. Instead, he's curling into himself and hiding like a mouse trapped in a jar. His eyes widen when he notices something inside the wall of fog. Ju-hyuk is now standing there with the 3 territory crystals in hand. To his horror, Ju-hyuk smashes each one of them with his fists. Upon the destruction of the crystals, the system notifies the players that ownership of the newly generated crystals would be transferred to Ju-hyuk. If he manages to protect them for 15 minutes, he will then become the new Lord of Derang. The new crystals appear right before Ju-hyuk, and he wonders how difficult it will be to defend them. He wonders why the other players are doing right now, but it turns out that they actually never stopped attacking. His wall of purple mists were in fact very durable that their attacks didn't even catch his attention. Even Mael's flame arrows couldn't even make a dent on the mists. He quietly apologizes to his master and finally acknowledges that his skills aren't trash skills, but are in fact cheat skills that integrate both offense and defense. Comments of people watching the live stream are also awestruck at how Ju-hyuk broke through Derang's walls all alone and is now easily defending the new crystals. They start speculating whether Ju-hyuk is actually a defense-specialized mage, while others wonder what happened in Sernia. They correctly hypothesize that Ju-hyuk must have just used Sernia as bait while he captures the real prize, the trade city of Derang. Meanwhile, Youngsok stretches in front of the computer, watching his successful propaganda. His number of viewers are currently on the rise and has already passed 1 million viewers because he is the only one showing the real event. Youngsok then notices that Ellen is also conducting a press conference. Vanwoo acts as the spokesperson of Ellen, and he acknowledges that Ju-hyuk has too much power as an individual. However, he also reminds everyone that Ju-hyuk is still a murderer and cannot be trusted based on his recent actions. Youngsuk relaxes since this is the usual spiel the guilds speak about the absolute evil, but he then notices that the comments are all in support of Ellen. They make fun of Ju-hyuk's fans for supporting a serial murderer and label them as having middle school syndrome. Youngsuk guesses that the guilds must be raiding and trolling his streams, but he's not worried. Youngsuk has a lot of experience as a streamer already, and he knows what to do. He logs into his account and starts banning the bots and trolls raiding his stream. But this isn't the only weapon Youngsuk has. Ju-hyuk had also given him a special video to be used in the right moment, and Youngsuk decides that this is the right moment. With one click, he uploads the video to the internet. After the press conference, Vanwoo receives a call from his aunt. When he answers it, his aunt shouts at him to hurry back to the conference room. Vanwoo was confused, but his aunt explains that a video of him selling exclusive warp and hunting rights is spreading on the internet. His aunt starts scolding him, while Vanwoo couldn't believe that the ultimate evil actually uploaded the video. A few days later, Ju-hyuk is creating another video lambasting the guilds for hypocritically calling him a criminal when they, in fact, are actually criminals themselves. He also teases to the audience that he uncovered new interesting things in Derang about the guilds. Youngsuk gives Ju-hyuk a thumbs up after shooting the video and promptly logs out to edit it. Ju-hyuk then turns towards Sershin, who is inspecting the management records of Derang. According to Sershin, the guilds controlling Derang collected a lot of taxes from everyone, but there was no record of spending. Thus, the tax money is probably embezzled. Sershin smiles as he already makes a plan on how best to use this information to their advantage. The next day, the upper management of Nova are having a meeting at their headquarters. They are talking about the notice posted by Ju-hyuk about Derang. First, Ju-hyuk was promising support to any player who switched their affiliation to Derang territory. Ju-hyuk would give them a free potion, a white stone, free use of hunting grounds that Ju-hyuk captures from the Nova and Ellen Guild, and lastly an open level-up quest. Since this announcement, the number of players moving to Derang are exponentially increasing. Moreover, administrative specialized NPCs are now the ones reorganizing Derang's management. Rumors are now circulating about the corruptions of past administrations. Muon looks worried about this news since he knows some document or ledger must have been left in Derang showing proof. The amount of money laundered in Derang must already be hundreds of billions, so this would be a huge controversy for them. They have to deal with this situation before Ju-hyuk finds this critical evidence. To reclaim Derang, the Nova Guild and Ellen Guild once again formed their alliance. Of course, they also use their influence with the media to bring along reporters and sway the public opinion. They made the invasion under the pretext of eradicating social inequality. Unfortunately, no matter how much they try to manipulate the media, it has reached a point that truth cannot be hidden. South Korea's top 100 guild are having their own discussions on how they will react to the clash between Ultimate Evil and First and Second guilds. They know that the key to determining the winner would be dependent if the Ultimate Evil can use his powers that he had shown in the earlier territory battles. On the other side, the unification of the Nova and Ellen Guild means that they can push their decree of exterminating the Ultimate Evil. In fact, if the other smaller guilds don't agree with them, they might end up becoming disliked by the public. If they don't do anything and the Ultimate Evil loses, they might also be criticized for being too passive. But if the Ultimate Evil wins and he becomes stronger, they have no idea what he might do next. With these conflicting decisions, the guilds decide that the best course of action for now is to just observe a little, even though this might make the public dislike them. Back inside the game, Ruvendel happily reports to Ju Hyuk that he had gathered all the drop items from the players murdered in Derang. In fact, Ruvendel even chose the skill Quick Acquisition to quicken his task and be Ju Hyuk's #1 pet. Ju Hyuk rummages around the bag of loot and then tosses one item to Ruvendel as a reward. Ruvendel's eyes shine as he gladly receives the 7 million won worth necklace. He already earned 30 million won this month, and being Ju Hyuk's pet was the best decision he ever made. Meanwhile, Ju Hyuk learns from Sernia that they have already got 10,000 registered users in Derang after their announcement of rewards. Unfortunately, the growth is now slowing down into a trickle of newcomers. Ju Hyuk is worried that the upcoming fight with the Nova Guild might scare away more players, but Sernia explains to him that it's actually an opportunity for them. If Ju Hyuk showcases his dignity and power in the battle for Derang, everyone would want to serve in his territory. Ju Hyuk wasn't really sure if Sernia's plan would work, but he decides to trust in him and promises to exert more strength this time. Back in the real world, Byung-moon is getting grilled by his superiors about the leaked footage of him taking bribes. Although the faces in the videos were blurred, anyone who knows Byung-moon can easily recognize him. Byung-moon felt so hopeless, but his aunt then tells him that it's fine. Trying to get ahead in life is just part of society, and lower-class people will always try to make connections just like he did. The real bad people are the ones using the video to blackmail them. Byung-moon profusely thanks his aunt for not punishing him and promises to do better next time. He then asks his aunt if she's going to participate in the Derang territory battle. His aunt replies that she will, which makes Byung-moon express his concern for her well-being. However, his aunt assures him that she will be fine since their top 5 rankers will all gather for the battle. That is how important it is for them to recapture Derang. A few days later, Saison arrives at the Nova Guild's hunting ground Napier Plains. She was the one tasked to take over the hunting grounds around Derang. The players there were surprised to see undead suddenly appear, while Saison appears annoyed that her mission is starting to get a bit tough. Nova Guild is now deploying priests and paladin NPCs to defend their hunting grounds. She just wants to finish her mission quickly and get back to Ju Hyuk's side. The mercenary from earlier in Rewen Valley, who is actually Roan, spots Saison and decides to sneak attack on her. He guesses that the undead must be draining a lot of her stamina, so he should be able to take her down and earn a promotion from Nova Guild. He leaps at Saison, but he then notices that this person looks very familiar to her. Meanwhile, Saison sees the attacking mercenary, and she just raises her hand to summon another undead. Jirigaktu emerges from the ground and swallows the mercenary whole, murdering him quickly. At Derang, Sernia and Ju Hyuk are standing at the east gate, looking out towards the plain. In the distance, the combined army of Nova and Ellen Guild are marching towards them. This army consists of 200,000 troops, with the top 5 rankers among their ranks. Sernia asks Ju Hyuk if they would need to summon the other elders to the fight, but Ju Hyuk vetoes the idea. If the elders gather at Derang, it might also attract the NPC's kingdom of the Erfis Empire. Instead, Ju Hyuk tells Sernia to watch closely. Ju Hyuk had reached level 60 after taking over Derang, and in addition to his destructive nature, he now also unlocked the skill Defensive Nature. This will be the perfect time to test out his second garbage skill. Ju Hyuk activates the skill and punches down on the wall, spewing purple mists again everywhere. Defensive Nature once again gets enhanced by True Evil Shattering Sky, so it levels up to Super Defensive Nature. Amidst the army, Muwon can feel the suspicious air current above Derang's walls. Logically, they should be able to curb stomp Ju Hyuk with their 200,000 strong army, but Ju Hyuk defies logic. He wonders if this purple mist is the same as what Ju Hyuk used when he attacked Derang. The top 1 ranker, Musak, volunteers to test out Ju Hyuk's skill and charges forward with his flaming sword held aloft. He then sends out a wave of fire into the walls, igniting it. Musak is confident that he will win because he specifically prepared for this battle. However, numerous purple beams suddenly hits him, causing him to cough up blood. Ju Hyuk smiles, since defensive nature had automatically notified him of being hit by a fire attribute attack. In response, it also automatically retaliated with 7 energy beams. Purple beams continue to shoot out from the purple mists surrounding the wall. These beasts hit the troops of Nova's army, making Muwon worry. He had confirmed that Ju Hyuk's skill uses counterattacks thanks to Musak's sacrifice. However, since Ju Hyuk is still a player with limited mana, he shouldn't be able to reflect all 200,000 attacks. That was why he ordered an all-out offensive, but now their troops are getting decimated. The Ellen executive and Bingwin's aunt, Blue Heart, watches the battle with her binoculars. She found it strange since Ju Hyuk's skill should be consuming MP, but no matter how much the wall counterattacks, Ju Hyuk hadn't yet drunk a single MP potion. Ju Hyuk is just watching the massacre from atop the wall while grinning at all the ultimate evil points he's gaining. He is amazed at how good the super defensive nature is. Since it's linked with his skill, he knows where and who is attacking from anywhere in the battlefield. Moreover, it also absorbs the damage as MP, so it replenishes itself and hardly consumes any of Ju Hyuk's MP. In fact, the only thing that could probably defeat defensive nature is an ultra-strong one-hit attack. His old master was right, and it seems like the ultimate evil can also specialize in siege warfare. Meanwhile, Muwon is thinking over other possible strategies. He guesses that Ju Hyuk might have an MP absorption skill, so they can't just continue attacking recklessly. However, they can't also just order their rankers to attack, since if they all get beaten, then it's basically game over for them. Taking risks is only for commoners to do, not for rankers and leaders like themselves. For now, Muwon decides that they should just step back and wait. When Ju Hyuk sees the enemy army retreating, he wonders if they are trying to wait out the duration of defensive nature. Then Ju Hyuk jumps out of the wall, surprising Sernia. He decided that if they won't come to him, then he will just come to them. Ju Hyuk also wants to use some of the ultimate evil points he gathered, so he decides to use 5 of them to temporarily activate a disabled ultimate evil exclusive skill. In the skies of Derang, Sezong is hurriedly going back to Ju Hyuk. She laments wasting too much time venting her frustration on Roan. She is worried that Ju Hyuk might get angry at her for being late, but she then notices that Ju Hyuk is outside the walls of Derang. From what they planned earlier, he should be on the walls. She was about to send him a message when Ju Hyuk finally activates his exclusive skill, Azura Destruction of Nothingness. A huge pillar of energy suddenly explodes on the battlefield. The pillar hits the sky, and it immediately darkens, making the whole territory overcast. The video feed couldn't handle the amount of energy, and it starts to blur, making Kyungsuk moan in disappointment. They couldn't even broadcast this epic scene that would sure attract more fans of Ju Hyuk. Even the public network's television broadcast fails, and remote-controlled drones fall from the sky. Kyungsuk looks at his VR gear and wonders if he should log into the game and video the whole battle himself. He hesitates since he might get caught up in the battle. Back inside the game, the pillar of energy moves as Ju Hyuk walks forward. When he approaches the army, players and soldiers are flung violently into the air. This skill is actually locked until level 99, and it's the strongest AoE skill that the ultimate evil can learn. Once cast, all the skills of the ultimate evil are fused together, creating a chain reaction of effects in combat, including attack, defense, and crowd control. In short, it massacres the enemies. The fact Ju Hyuk's old master acknowledges this skill is proof of its strength. Ju Hyuk was planning to go deeper in the enemy's ranks and defeat their leaders, thus finishing the battle quickly. He is sorely disappointed at the high rankers for using ordinary users as cannon fodder on the front lines. Of course, Ju Hyuk had no choice but to deal with these ordinary users as quick as possible. He waves his hand and a bolt of lightning falls down from the sky, exterminating hordes of players and leveling Ju Hyuk up. Ju Hyuk is starting to think that this power might be even too much for him. Meanwhile, the leaders of both Ellen and Nova are covering their faces in shock. Players all over are calling for healers, while a subordinate reports to Muwon that their frontline troops were evaporated. In a single strike by Ju Hyuk, 100,000 troops were wiped out. Moo-won clutches his fist in anger and orders Blue Heart to face Ju-hyuk. Since she was only rank 5th, the Blue Heart knows that she would just probably catch Ju-hyuk's attention, but not his time. Nevertheless, she accepts the order and heads out with her weapons drawn. All she asks of Moo-won is for him to know that he is in Ellen Guild's debts. She couldn't really reject the order since she's only an executive, while Moo-won is the leader of Nova. Blue Heart approaches Ju-hyuk and tells him to stop. Blue Heart was actually familiar to Ju-hyuk since she was the one sent before by Ellen to try and invite him into their guild. But now, all he wants to do is see what Blue Heart is capable of. He was about to start attacking when he receives a message from Saison warning him to stop. She had scattered undead in the area as scouts, and they have just sensed something strange happening. Something is being summoned in front of Derang's west gate. Earlier that week, the information department of the Olympus Empire had compiled strange information surrounding the whole Derang situation. First, they determined that the ultimate evil class possesses a power beyond their expectations. Second, the fugitive they are pursuing, Remtadian, looks remarkably similar to the ultimate evil's appearance. In reality, they didn't look alike, but to NPCs, they appear similar. Thankfully, another NPC reports that Remtadian had already surrendered to them a week ago. Lastly, it seems like the Empire's weapon, Ramada, were being borrowed by Nova Guild. The NPCs wonder if it's truly okay to use Ramada in a war between players, but since their king had allowed it, they have no choice but to follow. The NPCs compliment the players for successfully negotiating the loan of Ramada. Even though it's only a third-class siege weapon, it's still quite powerful. It didn't really give the players precise information for its usage, so the players should only be able to draw out half of its power. Nevertheless, even that should be enough to destroy Derang. In one shot, it would obliterate the territory crystals inside Derang. Back in the present, Ju-hyuk receives Saison's report about a giant cannon on Derang's west gate. He plans to head there quickly, but Blue Heart shouts out a challenge to him. However, Ju-hyuk is truly pressed for time, so he instead activates his speed skill and runs past Blue Heart. If there really is a giant cannon in the west gate, there might be a chance that his skilled defensive nature might not block it. Up in the sky, Saison is getting nervous as she watches the players prepared to fire Ramada. The cannon looks incredibly strong, and she feels like they have to block it somehow. Ju-hyuk is still a distance away from them, so she feels like she has to do something. Thus, she decides to summon her Legion of Death. If Ju-hyuk is coming over to their side in a rush, that means that the cannon must be truly powerful. As such, she will summon her most powerful undead, Juragaktu. Saison leaps from Bokbok's back and plummets to the ground. She then cancels all her other summons to summon Juragaktu at his most powerful. The large snake appears in the sky and activates its petrification skill. The players watching the snake that suddenly appeared above them immediately gets petrified. Saison cheers since she managed to delay the firing of the cannon. However, she is still falling to her death. Bokbok dives to follow after her, but Saison was too far. Saison happily accepts her death since she managed to help Ju-hyuk anyway, but Ju-hyuk catches her. He then congratulates Saison for delaying the cannon for a while and thanks her for her help. After putting down Saison, Ju-hyuk charges at the cannon. He recognized the cannon as the Olympus Empire's weapon, Ramada. This means that he cannot directly destroy the cannon because this might anger the Empire. Instead, he would have to take down all the mages surrounding it. Ju-hyuk activates his skill, 1000 Slaughter Strike. To his surprise, a 1000 Slaughter Strike combined with Super 100 Slaughter Strike, creating a new skill. The new skill makes short work of the mages and finally eliminates the threat of the cannon. This was just in time too, since Ju-hyuk receives a message from Hyungsuk. Hyungsuk is currently at the eastern wall, and he urges Ju-hyuk to return quickly. It looks like Blue Heart is doing an on-the-spot interview and is besmirching the ultimate evil's name. According to her, Ju-hyuk is a cowardly murderer for running away from their fight. Meanwhile, Blue Heart is actually waiting for Ramada's firing. Blue Heart gives out an interview on Ju-hyuk's cowardice while she's waiting for the Ramada to fire. When she doesn't hear the cannon shooting, she wonders if something had gone wrong. She looks towards the west gate to check, and this saves her because at that moment, Ju-hyuk punches her. Blue Heart was able to dodge at the last moment and signals for everyone to retreat while she draws her weapons. She can sense that Ju-hyuk wasn't even using his whole strength, and yet his power is monstrous. She also guesses that their plan to use Ramada has failed, and they are on their last plan. Her role in this last plan is to buy a little more time. Blue Heart and Ju Hyuk clash in battle. But after just 3 seconds, Blue Heart drops her weapons and dies. Ju Hyuk scratches his head in disappointment that even the 5th ranker couldn't give him an interesting battle. Using his mind's eye, Ju Hyuk detects a large magical force gathering behind the enemy army. This must be the last plan Mu-won has. He strolls to the army and continues with his current plan, hunting down the rankers and leaders of the army. Soldiers rush in to delay him even a few seconds while the 3rd rank mage, Lanian, casts her binding magic. Under her wing were 300 more mages to lend support to his magic. If all goes well, they should tie Ju Hyuk up for a few seconds. In that few seconds, Mu-won should be able to put the golden shackle on him. Lanian then uses level detecting to determine Ju Hyuk's level. Seeing that he's level 70, Lanian is confident that her magic would work. A magic circle then appears below them, which signals the start of the binding process. The requirement of this binding magic to work is for the caster to have a higher intelligence level than the target. Since Lanian is a pure mage, she should be able to win in this battle of numbers. Unfortunately, Lanian sees the error of her calculations by way of Ju Hyuk's fist. Technically, Lanian's calculations weren't wrong. For a normal level 70 player to resist Lanian's binding spell, they would need to invest all their stats into intelligence. Unfortunately, Ju Hyuk's base stats are actually too high for his level. His base stats all began at 99, and this was further enhanced by Shattering Sky technique. Thus, it was impossible for Lanian's magic to work on him in the first place already. Ju Hyuk's punch was like a nuclear bomb to Lanian's face, and she dies in one hit. Mu-won watches another of their ranker die, and he remembers the last time he saw such a monster. The Karma of the Heavenly Emperor was the first monstrous player he saw, but now it looks like Ju Hyuk is another one. More soldiers rush again to attack Ju Hyuk, but Ju Hyuk's other cooldown have just finished. He just activates his skill once more and the massacre continues. A few days later, news websites are all reporting about how one person defeated 200,000 people. Mu-won and the other Nova executives are at their headquarters contemplating on what they should do next. They didn't just lose Derang, they also experienced a huge blow to their prestige and reputation. The only silver lining is that no video survived the battle, so no one can see Ju Hyuk's overwhelmingly powerful skills. All Mu-won can do now is to start a media campaign and try to control the narrative. Some of Ellen Guild's troops survived and retreated, so it's still not too late. A subordinate then barges into the office and delivers some bad news. It looks like a video of the Ultimate Evil's battle has been uploaded into the internet. Despite all remote video recording being destroyed during the battle, it looks like one person have manually recorded it. Of course, this person is no other than Hyung-suk. Mu-won shakes in rage and throws the tablet playing the video away. He then demands everyone to find out who the owner of the channel is and everything they know about that person. His employees quickly leave to follow his orders, while Mu-won sits back down in his chair. If he only knows the Ultimate Evil's real identity, he would even issue a death sentence for him. Unfortunately, the Ultimate Evil is too careful in real life. Meanwhile, Ju Hyuk learns from his elders that the Nova Guild has started to track Hyung-suk. Since assassins might come after his subordinate, Ju Hyuk assigns Yorhan to protect him. Ju Hyuk is realizing how dangerous their life really is now that even internet broadcasters are being targeted. Thankfully, a newcomer has arrived to distract him. It was Landor, the ruler of the Fire Continent in the Middle Eastern server, and the Guild Master of Qatar. Landor offers his hand in greeting and remarks how much trouble Ju Hyuk seems to always stir. Ju Hyuk and Landor shares a conversation over a cup of tea. Landor explains that he always wanted to engage in trade with South Korea. The country boasts of excellent educational infrastructure, so it's the best place for nurturing talents. Unfortunately, Landor found it difficult to sign any contracts on the country due to opposition from the major guilds in the country. Landor further explains that the guilds oppose his contracts because it would cause the price of monster stones to decrease in South Korea. Since the Middle East has a high supply of blue and red stones, the crashing of its price would also decrease the profits of the guilds. Landor further points out how the major alliances are already calling themselves nobles while deliberately preventing common people from getting economic independence. He hates this kind of people, and he noticed that the Ultimate Evil is also against these guilds. Thus, he wants to offer his support to Ju Hyuk. Ju Hyuk knows that Landor is also using him so he can open trade with Korea and destroy the Grand Alliance. However, since Ju Hyuk isn't opposed to these reasons too, Ju Hyuk accepts Landor's offer and shakes his hand. As a start, Lander even offers offline security for both Ju Hyuk and any of his subordinates. A few days later, the alliance between the ultimate evil and the Middle East is shared on the internet by Kyungsuk. The internet, of course, was in a frenzy again about this news. Nevertheless, only few of them truly believe that the ultimate evil can destroy the monopolistic grand alliances in the country. But everything changed after an announcement a few days later. Ju Hyuk visits Sershin and asks him how his mission of organizing their data is going. Sershin's eyes show lack of sleep, but he happily reports that they finished everything. Now all they have to do is release this information bit by bit to stir the people's emotions. Of course, the guilds would probably try to retaliate, but they don't have to worry too much about that today. A few hours later, Si and Sejong are hanging out in the real world when they notice a new topic trending on the internet. Yang Shuk had posted the information about the misdeeds of Nova Guild during their management of Derang. 3 misdeeds were leaked. First, it turns out that the Olympus pension promised to players by the Airfis Empire was being intercepted by Nova Guild and was being embezzled. Second, the Nova Guild deliberately put subcontracted players in dangerous situation where their characters could die and be deleted. Then they only compensated them with little money, forcing these players to retire from the game. And lastly, 3.5 billion gold was paid to Beast Master Yujin for some unknown reason, even though she's not affiliated to the Nova Guild in any way. Si was surprised that her brother had revealed all of this information. She knew that they found a lot of incriminating details at Derang, but she never expected him to start a whole controversy. Even the comments are starting to wonder whether the ultimate evil can survive putting these rich people in full blast. Back in the game, Ju Hyuk is just using his skills to take over another city, the port city of Marin. He has nothing else to do but to continue his territorial war against the Nova Guild and try to invade their lands. Nova Guild has approximately 360 territories, and Ju Hyuk invades about 1 or 2 territories a day. Then every time he took over a territory, he gave all the data he found to Sershin to sift through and find more incriminating evidence for them to leak. Ju Hyuk is getting concerned about Sershin since before. He seemed tired after working a lot, but now, he just seems so happy. Curtin also suggests to Ju Hyuk to drop by their capital, Nanan, once in a while so their citizens can see him. Meanwhile, Musak is trying to cheer up his grandfather Mwon back in the real world. It's true that they are facing a lot of setbacks, but they can just cover it up and distract the masses again. However, Mwon knows that this issue they're facing now is not just a simple matter. After all, the ultimate evil had already made up his mind. With his insane power, he just continues to take over their territories. And in addition, his strength is attracting more and more commoners to support him. They can't even use money anymore to fight Ju Hyuk, because he now has a millionaire Middle Eastern supporting him. For now, Mwon orders Musak to convene a board meeting. They have to make a huge decision because it looks like they would have to draw the sword. The following morning, shocking news spread throughout the game. 10,000 members of Nova Guild had been fired, with Nova Guild citing their troubling financial states after losing a lot of territories and hunting grounds. Even Ju Hyuk was shocked at the damage he caused. Due to the black monsters appearing after he conquers a hunting ground, more and more players couldn't earn money. Si then arrives to give his brother some good news that might be able to help him. Since she had been going on quests with the other constellations, also known as clerics, she had finally reached level 70, and as a reward, she obtained a new skill, Purification. A little while later, Si is now in one of the hunting grounds, Field of Darkness. This hunting ground is now populated with black monsters in the form of raging black bulls. Only a few players now hunt in these grounds due to the black monsters, and these players were actually surprised to see a constellation like Si in the premises. Si raises her wand and starts casting her purification spell. Gold light spreads out from her wand, and when it hits the black bulls, they revert to their normal cow monster form. The players were shocked, while Si just smiles at the camera and promises to purify the other hunting grounds. These videos are now spreading on the internet, and other players are returning to the hunting grounds that the ultimate evil took over and Si purified. Without the guild there, they don't have to pay an exorbitant fee, and with Si purifying the black monsters, the players are able to hunt the normal monsters for money. These news also reaches Muwon and Musak. Muwon is annoyed that Si is unnecessarily messing things more. Since Si is purifying Ju Hyuk's hunting grounds, players are opting to hunt there instead in the Nova-controlled ones. Even the government supports Sia's purification endeavors. Musak suggests that they can just order a player murder on Sia, but Muwon points out that they would be the immediate suspect if that happens. They laid off massive amounts of people to make the ultimate evil look bad, but now the profits in the hunting grounds are rising again. The ultimate evil's image is actually improving more because players they laid off moved to the ultimate evil's territory and hunts there now. Museok suggests they try to scout out Sia and recruit her. But Muwon also tables this idea because they don't want commoners to think they can join their noble family. Inside the game, Sejong is very happy as she tells the good news to Ju Hyuk. His reputation is continuously improving as more and more people can earn stable incomes on Ju Hyuk's hunting grounds. In fact, people are even starting to think that Ju Hyuk can really take down the Nova Guild. With the success of their territory battle, 30,000 people had already registered in their area, and if their growth continues, they would soon reach their maximum capacity of 100,000. Since they also impose minimal tax compared to the Nova Guild, people are starting to believe the corruption allegations levied against the Nova Guild. The only problem left for Ju Hyuk now is the fact that he cannot manage all the territories by himself. If the large alliances split their armies and attack simultaneously, he cannot defend them all. In fact, some of the territories he captured were recaptured back by Nova Guild almost immediately after he left. While Ju Hyuk is deep in thought, Season is staring at him with love-struck eyes. Meanwhile, Markin abruptly appears carrying a file. It was the ledger of the Welfare Foundation. When Derang fell, all personnel handling the Olympus pension ran away, so Markin was exploring their office to look for any useful data. Under some books, he found the ledger with a very important information on it. The ledger states that the chairperson of the K Welfare Foundation, the foundation in charge of the pension, is known as You Say. Not only that, this person is one of the constellations. C had mentioned how the fourth constellation is a director of the Nova Guild and is a woman feared even by Museok, the first constellation. Sershin also notices in the ledger that at the time of the Foundation's establishment, major guilds like the Nova Guild and Ellen gave massive amounts of funds. The ledger also contains information about reshuffling of Nova personnel, including Markin himself. Markin wonders if he was actually kicked out of the Nova Guild just because of the Foundation's influence. Back at his house, Ju Hyuk is trying to connect all the dots they discovered. Initially, he thought that the Foundation was created just for Nova Guild to embezzle the pension funds. But it looks like this conspiracy goes deeper. The Foundation was created using the Nova Guild's funds, but it also influences Nova's management. This Foundation is also led by the fourth constellation, a person that even Museok feared. C then arrives with some big news. She had just returned from meeting with the other constellations, and she found out that Beast Master Yujin is actually a disciple of the fourth constellation. The mention of Yujin reminds Ju Hyuk of the 3 billion gold paid to her by Nova Guild too. And now this person is the disciple of the player known as You Say. Ju Hyuk smiles as things seem to be falling into place. In Olympus, if a character gets deleted, the player would have to start again at level 1. When a subcontracted player of the Holy Guild encountered a special monster that has the power to delete characters, this player would have to start again from scratch. This kind of incident didn't just happen once at Nova Guild. Nova Guild had used other players to find monsters with special abilities. It also sacrificed them to uncover enemy abilities. They even used mercenaries to be sacrificed in research of traps or items that could cause character deletion. These players lost years of their work building up their characters due to the Nova Guild. Currently, 15 victims are known. Thus, the Ultimate Evil volunteered to take care of these players and invite them to Derang. He registered them in his territory and promised to support them over the next 10 years until they can get back on their feet. What the Holy Guild failed to do, the Ultimate Evil promised to correct. This is the new video propaganda that Kyungsuk had just posted on his channel. People wonder if this is just a popularity move by the Ultimate Evil, but Ju Hyuk just gives them a question to ponder. He was able to support these people with only the taxes collected in Derang. So did the Nova Guild chose not to just support these people in the past? Or is the level of corruption in Derang that high in the past? Ju Hyuk's continued social media campaign further drives new players to register at Derang. From the opening of the hunting grounds to free support for citizens, player opinion is now changing regarding the Ultimate Evil. No matter how much the Nova Guild tries to deface their reputation, their real work is producing results. The only problem now is that the number of people who gathered in Derang is around 1 million, and they cannot accept them all. They soon put up a full sign on their gates, which forced the waiting players to just head to other cities owned by Ju Hyuk. Even if the Nova Guild invades, these players would want to defend their new homes. This is actually the plan concocted by Sershin to fix their security problem. Since Ju Hyuk cannot defend all their territories at the same time, the players now living there would have to defend themselves and buy time until he arrives. This would in fact stabilize around 10 of their territories. Since Sernia had just fixed one of his most pressing problems, Ju Hyuk decides to visit Nyan for a while. The elder stationed at Nyan immediately kneels upon his arrival, and the whole city welcomes him. He was walking through the city when a system notification opens up in front of him. Nyan's central altar had responded to his presence and is verifying his qualifications. Since he now has 10 lordships, he had just met the conditions for a new linked quest, Overlord. Since it's a linked quest, Ju Hyuk quickly guesses that this must be connected to the main scenario quest of the Ultimate Evil class. It looks like he's truly fulfilling his master's wish of conquering the world. Upon opening the quest, it orders him to obtain 300 territories and 3 million residents in under 2 months. Ju Hyuk was shocked at this harsh requirements. It took Nova Guild 150 years to achieve something like that, and now he's expected to do it in under 60 days. He wonders what penalty he would get if he fails. He couldn't even believe that he's been clearing the previous main quests until now. His mind then immediately goes to Saison. Saison had helped him tremendously in all his quests. The Cliff of Ages quest wouldn't even be clearable without Saison, and even in the recent war with the Nova Guild, she did all she can to stop the siege weapons from firing. Ju Hyuk tells the elders that he'll be going back immediately. He will definitely conquer 300 territories. He'll just have to be a bit busier. Meanwhile, a press conference is being held back in the real world. Jung Gongjin, the head of NZ, the third largest guild in South Korea, had just returned from sabbatical. And not only that, he is also praising the Ultimate Evil's efforts of overturning their evil society. Thus, their guild would be supporting Ju Hyuk from now on. One of his subordinates tried to protest since Ju Hyuk is still an unknown factor and is like an untested boat, but Gongjin points out that Ju Hyuk is doing the things they should have been doing in the first place. They should have been the ones opening the hunting grounds for free and introducing reforms. The Ultimate Evil is doing all of this on his own, so in Gongjin's eyes, Ju Hyuk is in fact a hero. If they follow Ju Hyuk's lead and use their influence, they can stop the aristocratic forces controlling their country and create a better South Korea. Moreover, if people are worried that Ju Hyuk is an untested boat, then he will just be the captain of that untested boat. He then warns the older generation to prepare for a new era. A few days later, Ju Hyuk meets up with Gongjin at Derang and finalizes their alliance. Through their cooperation, they can now protect and hold 50 territories. Ju Hyuk acknowledges that NZ is a good guild compared to the others. It has a proven track record of good deeds, and its leader, Gongjin, came from humble beginnings. However, it is still a conglomerate, so Ju Hyuk doesn't trust them 100%. He is just using this opportunity to achieve the 300 territory he needs for his quest. Gongjin then introduces his granddaughter, who turns out to be a follower of Ju Hyuk's work. She is the Warp Master, Lee Derang, and she pledges her services to helping Ju Hyuk's cause. Derang is actually a famous player despite not being a ranker. She plays through the game only using her warp skills and without engaging in direct combat. She provides free warp portals to injured players and NPCs, as well as move lost or isolated merchants. In fact, the limits of her warp powers aren't disclosed to the public. There is no place in the Korean-based continent that she cannot travel to. Ju Hyuk smiles upon acquiring a new useful team member, and he explains his plan to Gongjin and Derang. He will conquer 300 territories in 60 days. The father-daughter duo was stunned at his preposterous goals. Hyung-sok later posts the announcement of alliance between the Ultimate Evil and NZ, the third-ranked alliance in the country. Public opinion now positively views the Ultimate Evil, and they even take Ju Hyuk's announcement seriously that he will conquer 300 territories. As for his first target, it will be the Taurus Fortress, one of Nova Guild's top defensive territories. It has never been breached in the 150 years since Nova Guild took over. The entrance to the fortress is located on a narrow gorge, and it even has specialized defense weapons to protect it. At Derang, Ju Hyuk explains to his companions that the attack would only consist of him and Warp Master. Saison, meanwhile, is looking concerned over a whole different topic. Derang is so pretty and capable that she is afraid Ju Hyuk would fall for her. Ju Hyuk notices Saison's worried looks and misinterprets it as her worrying about his winning chances. Ju Hyuk pats her on the head and assures her that he is stronger than Taurus Fortress. Saison is so happy that Ju Hyuk touched her that she cheers them on. Meanwhile, the Taurus fortress immediately jumps into attention when they spot the ultimate evil. One of the players assigned to protect this fortress is the great mage Lanian, who is hoping for a rematch with Ju Hyuk. She was publicly shamed when she was easily defeated by Ju Hyuk, so this is her chance to redeem herself. Even Moan, their leader, had personally promised his support as long as they successfully defend Taurus. Lanian activates Taurus' special weapon, the Cannon Dragoon. Dragoon carefully targets Ju Hyuk and prepares to fire. In the distance, Ju Hyuk is also preparing for their own attack. If he was on his own, it would have taken Ju Hyuk a while to reach this territory. But now that Derang is on their side, it has become much easier. He can just warp to any location at any time. Ju Hyuk approaches the fortress while using his mind's eye to observe the surroundings. There were no mines around, unlike the Rumen Valley, and he can see the huge concentration of magic around the Dragoon weapon. He is disappointed in them for over-relying on only one weapon. Meanwhile, Lanian fires the Dragoon at Ju Hyuk. She was planning to just incapacitate Ju Hyuk so she can shackle him later, but she put too much mana on the weapon that it might actually murder Ju Hyuk. Green bursts of mana bullets streak toward Ju Hyuk, but Ju Hyuk just lifts the item in his hand. He then activates the magic item, and to everyone's surprise, the mana bullets stopped in midair. Ju Hyuk had used the eyes of Jirigaktu to counter the Dragoon. The eyes had just frozen the mana flow of the bullets. Jirigaktu's eye is one of the 3 rewards Ju Hyuk received after defeating Jirigaktu. The other rewards, Jirigaktu's Extract and Tear, were already used on the earlier battle for Derang to temporarily increase Ju Hyuk's level. Meanwhile, Jirigaktu's eye has the ability of allowing the user to momentarily use one of Jirigaktu's abilities. Ju Hyuk had used the eye to replicate Jirigaktu's Petrifying Eyes, which freezes the flow of mana. When combined with Ju Hyuk's Mind Eye skill, it can even allow the petrification of non-living things like mana bullets. Nevertheless, Dragoon's bullets are still powerful, so the petrification can only last for around 50 seconds. But this is enough time for Ju Hyuk to win. Lanian shouts at everyone to get ready as Ju Hyuk charges at the fortress wall. Since Taurus Fortress has only one entrance, Ju Hyuk has only one target. He doesn't have to spread out his mana, and he concentrates it all on his fists, enough to break through the wall. Ju Hyuk then uses Destructive Nature but focused on a single point. He throws the concentrated mana at the wall, and it explodes into smithereens. Meanwhile, a remote camera is recording the whole thing and live-streaming it on Hyungsuk's channel. After breaking through the wall, Ju Hyuk just strolls right in to look for the territory crystal. He looks around, but he cannot see where the people who supplied mana to the Dragoon went to. He wonders if they are preparing for a new strategy when Lanian blocks his way. Ju Hyuk recognizes her as the 3rd ranker that he fought during the defense battle of Derang, but he decides to tease her a little bit. He acts like he doesn't know her, which immediately ticks off Lanian. She immediately screams at Ju Hyuk for insulting her when he's just a lowborn commoner. Ju Hyuk points at the camera hovering over them and asks her, is it really okay to say such elitist thing in front of the camera? However, Lanian just calls him a pig. Ju Hyuk's fist glows with mana as he prepares to use his nuclear bomb punch again on Lanian, just like he did in their first battle. However, he just instead smacks her on the head for talking trash. The comments congratulate Lanian for surviving more than one hit this time, but they didn't know that Ju Hyuk was just playing with her. Lanian tries to counterattack with her staff, but Ju Hyuk just dodges all of her attacks. When Lanian tires of Ju Hyuk's antics, he calls upon her mage companions and orders them to get ready. She then activates the skill, Limited Blood Explosion, allowing her to absorb mana from her companions so she can cast her ultimate skill. However, it wasn't just absorbing mana. One mage falls to his knees unconscious while others beg for Lanian to stop. Ju Hyuk is just watching them and waiting for Lanian to make her move when he receives a message from Hyungsuk. Hyungsuk warns him that Lanian's skill actually doesn't just absorb mana from nearby players. It can also delete characters. A player from the mage's group had risked their lives just to inform them. Ju Hyuk tells Hyungsuk to relay their promise of help if the deleted players need help. Meanwhile, he also starts feeling the effects of the spell. Red energy surrounds him and damage is soon accumulating on Ju Hyuk's character, causing him to lose some HP. Lanian is also now getting cocky and expecting to win. She remarks how commoners will always stay as commoners. However, Ju Hyuk raises his hand and activates his skill. The red energy surrounding him immediately gets replaced by purple mist. Lamian is shocked that her own spell was cancelled. Meanwhile, the purple mist wraps around Ju Hyuk until he is enveloped in a sphere. Then blades made of purple energy waves suddenly pours out of the sphere, cutting everything and everyone around. In an instant, Lamian was cut down. Ju Hyuk deactivates his skill after confirming Lamian's death. He acknowledges Lamian's strength as a third ranker since she had a hidden skill, but he also noticed that her specs were below par. As for the other mages, Ju Hyuk tells them that he won't murder them if they just leave. Thus, Ju Hyuk had successfully conquered Taurus Fortress. As a reward for being the first player to conquer Taurus Fortress in more than a century, a new region called Taurus Wilderness has been opened. Ju Hyuk visits the newly discovered region of Taurus Wilderness and sees that it's full of rare blue-furred deer. This specific creature is actually very profitable, so it looks like this new hunting ground might change the normal operations of Taurus Fortress. Meanwhile, Derang reports that she had arrived with Ruvendel. Ruvendel had already started picking up the loot and shows it to Ju Hyuk. Meanwhile, Derang is still amazed that Ju Hyuk actually managed to capture Taurus Fortress on his own. Before the battle, she thought it would be difficult to conquer Taurus Fortress and expose the true nature of the nobles. But upon watching the video of Ju Hyuk's attack, she saw how he easily baited Lamian to show her true colors and the corrupt behavior of high rankers. Even the comments under the video are mentioning how they can't trust rankers anymore. Ruvendel notices Derang's deep thought and correctly guesses that she must be processing how amazing their new boss is. He then assures her that she should get used to this. When he himself was traveling with Ju Hyuk, every day was a spectacle. Ruvendel then bids goodbye as he goes back to collecting the items inside the fortress. However, he hurriedly goes back and warns Derang that Ruvendel will always be Ju Hyuk's #1 pet, no one else. In the past, blue-furred deer can only be hunted in the Kagonus Mountains. Its fur is so versatile because it has excellent thermal insulation while still being light. Thus, it's a popular material to create thin but warm clothes. It can also be melted and mixed with other construction materials to create insulation. In fact, its usefulness is so endless that it's considered a dream material. And now, Ju Hyuk has unlimited access to it. C's eyes sparkles as she explains what a boon the Taurus Wilderness is. However, Ju Hyuk reminds her that his identity is still a secret, and he shouldn't catch the attention of the Grand Alliance in real life. He's not even going to monopolize the hunting grounds, since that would make him a hypocrite. Instead, he will use the Taurus Fortress as a hub to buy and sell equipment for players wanting to hunt in the Taurus Wilderness. They can just earn from that through taxes. The blue fur's price might also be affected due to the influx from their new source, so it would be better if they don't interfere. Of course, they would still check the identity of anyone who wants to hunt there. A few days later, a lot of players are starting to head towards Taurus Fortress. They are excited to hunt in the newly discovered hunting grounds. It's such a happy atmosphere that players are even starting to make parties right by the entrance to the fortress. All of a sudden, a bullet shoots one of the players in the head and murders him. It turns out that this player is a member of the Nova Guild, so Dragoon had shot him. Only players registered in the Ultimate Evil's territory are allowed to pass. As for the mage operating it, Ju Hyuk is even offering them 3 times the usual wage. News sites soon start to report about this new hunting grounds. Some are reporting about how it's destroying the market economy, while others are commenting on how crowded it is. Some players are even jealous of the wages offered in Taurus. Thankfully, the chaos brought about by this new hunting ground should subside soon and public opinion should settle. The high density of people in the hunting grounds should also settle once the market price stabilizes again over time. The important thing to remember is throughout Ju Hyuk's territory, whether it is on the port city Marine or at the trade city Derang, players are still continuing to register in these places and populating it. They are making steady progress towards Ju Hyuk's goal of 300 territories and 3 million residents. But they still have a long way to go. It is time to implement the next step of their plan. Meanwhile, in one of the caves of Olympus stood 2 doors. Above this cave is a barren land filled with mountains. A group of knights braves these mountains riding atop their steeds. They then feel that the time has come. As the sun reaches a certain point, a monster appears and roars a warning. Back at Derang, Ju Hyuk pulls out another one of his black stones, the rarest material on the planet. He smiles in excitement over this next step of the plan. Meanwhile, Landor is enjoying the blue sky somewhere when a notification window opens up in front of him. The notification surprises him, but he remarks that it truly has been a while. That's it for today's recap. Give us a like and subscribe. See you next time.